Bhagavad Satsang. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we will be continuing Shri Eknathi Bhagavad Satsang, chapter 2, verse 38 onwards. Though duality has no real existence, it does appear to the man who sees and thinks in his dream that there is some image separate from him. So, a wise man should control his mind, which projects some action and doubts about it. Then only there will be freedom from fear. Fear of being involved in worldly life and suffering. Now, that's a Uddhav Gita, the bare text, which is the verse from the Uddhav. This is Uddhav Gita. This is the main verse. And now Eknath Maharaj is going to give his explanation on this verse. So let us continue. Just as when a man is sleeping, he imagines various things in his dream, though they are not there. Similarly, what he sees as the outer phenomenon is illusory and has no real existence. When a man is sleeping, he sees a dream. When he awakens, he sees people and nature, forest, etc. also, which are also equally false, though he sees them in his mental projection. Or if he sits for meditation and sees an idol or image, he sees himself as the thinker. He sees that there is something about what is he thinking, and he is also aware of the act of thinking, as well as the various things offered to God in the worship, which is all imagined. So here what Eknath Maharaj is saying is very simple. He's telling, see, a man dreams. In his dream, he sees various images. And in the dream, you're also waking up. You're doing something. You're seeing the plants. You're seeing the forest. You're seeing so many different things. But in reality, when you wake up, those things don't exist. It's only a creation of your mind. It's an image. But how do you feel? In the dream, you feel whatever is happening or whatever you're seeing as real. So he sees, what is he saying? He's seeing that even if you sit and think you're meditating and there is, an idol or an image, or there is an act of meditation, then what is happening? There is an act of thinking. He's also aware. So when you sit in a meditation, and what is he saying? Or he sits for meditation and sees an idol or image. So you're keeping an idol or an image and you're focusing your mind on that. Then what happens? He sees himself as the thinker. So when you're meditating, you're also thinking. You are aware that your mind is thinking. Next, he sees that there is something about which he is thinking, and he's also aware of the act of thinking. So what does that mean now? So the person who is meditating on an idol or an object sees very clearly that there is some act of thinking happening, there is a process of thinking, and there is somebody who's also thinking. So which means, are you really meditating or not? So in the meditation also the mind is active. So if you're aware of all these things, then how can that be a meditation? So, and he's also aware of the act of thinking as well as the various things offered to God in the worship, which is all imagined. So what is he simply saying? Everything is your imagination. Just as even if a miser will get himself attached to his money, etc., though he has lost everything, and his mind becomes mad for money by thinking about all the lost property. So here he's giving an example. What is the example? There is a miser, and the miser has attached to the money, and the money has been lost by him. So what happens? His mind is only dwelling on that object, which is called money, and whatever he has lost, and he has become mad. But his mind is not giving up that thought process. So, though mind is not money, but when it remembers the storage of all his riches now lost, it forgets its real nature and becomes possessed by the obsession about money. This is a beautiful way of explaining how we as individuals, when we are born through this body, have lost our identification with the Atman or the self. So what is he saying? Though mind is not money, but when it remembers the storage of all his riches now lost. So what has happened? So the mind is remembering. Who is remembering? The mind. See, though the mind Though the mind is not the money, but the mind is remembering all the money he had in the storages, all his riches, which has been lost. And then what happens? It forgets its real nature. So he's forgetting his real nature and becomes possessed by the obsession about money. So what happens? His mind becomes possessed with the obsession that the only focus in his world is the money that he has lost. Similarly, even with individuals, even with us, what happens when we get attached to the body, the identification with the body, you lose the, you lose the identification with the self, which is your real nature. And most important, what happens? It's not just identification with the body. We are associating with people, places, and things. Everything, surrounds these three aspects, which is people, place, and things. It is your house, it's your job, it's your family, it's your children, everything else in this world. Whether the country that you live in, the place that you live in, everything is an attachment. And when you are bound by it, when you're so obsessed by it, what happens? You possess it. Your possession, that is where the word possession comes into existence. And then you become very obsessed with that. So then your identification with the real self doesn't happen at all. That's what he's telling. Next, similarly, when a person is completely confused, he thinks as the real things which are false. Then through that confusion caused by the ego, the fear of suffering, etc. in the worldly life attacks him. This is very powerful. So what is he saying? Similarly, when a person is completely confused, now how does this confusion comes? Let us understand. Then he thinks as real the things which are false. Beautiful. So what happens in a human being's life? We are afraid of lot of things, and most important is we don't have knowledge. And number two most important thing is we get confused because we are thinking too much. It could be, I'll just give an example. You are today at a brink of losing your job, or you just know that your company is now firing people because they are laying off and they want to close down, or something is happening like that. Now you don't know what to do. Why? Because your dependency is on your paychecks. You have EMIs. And you're completely thinking about it. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I need to find a job soon. You're completely lost in that thing. And now because of this attachment, so what is he saying? Whatever the job and everything in the material world which you think is so important, and because of that attachment, you're confused. How does the confusion come? Oh, what happens if the job I lose? What happens to my visa? Should I go back? Should I stay back? Will I get another job? Oh, I need to apply for interviews. I need to apply for jobs. I need to give interviews. There are so many different things that goes on in your mind. Your mind is completely muddled and you can't think straight. And in such a case, what happens is you think everything which is the real, he thinks as real the things which are false. Means what? Everything that is false, you start believing that is real. So it's your imagination that creates havoc. My Guruji was giving a very beautiful lesson yesterday and today. So somebody who listened to it took it literally. It was an example given by somebody else. Okay, it was just an example. Now that example you attribute it to your own self. You become that character, and you think all those events are going to happen to you. Now what happens in such a case? So you start believing everything as real, that which is false. And then you are afraid. You think that's going to happen to you. Your mind is confused. It's playing havoc on you. But why are you thinking all that is going to happen to you? It is somebody else's life. That person is dead and gone. It is only a lesson. When a guru teaches, what is he giving? Even here, Eknath Maharaj is giving an example. Example is given so that your mind understands. It doesn't mean that's your reality in your life. It's just an example. Why is example given? So that we need to take the lesson from it. It's because of the knowledge. It's because of the teachings. The reason that examples are given so that you can correlation to the teaching, to the knowledge, not to the individual, that whole event. Because that is not your life. So this is what happens. So then you become afraid. Your mind is confused. Now it's throwing lot of things, which is all unreal. And you start believing that that is real. That's happening to you or that's going to happen to you. And because it has happened to somebody else. Then through that confusion caused by the ego, the fear of suffering, etc., in the worldly life attacks him. This is exactly what happened. So what happened? Then through that confusion, so now your mind is confused because you are believing that something like that is going to happen to you. You are that victim, or your family is that victim. Something drastically, some life altering situation is coming in your life. That's exactly what is going to happen to you in your family, and that belief is there. And then what happens? Through that confusion, so now your mind is completely confused. It can't think straight. Imagine when you're so afraid, then what happens? It can't think straight at all. Then through that confusion caused by, what has caused it? The ego and the fear of suffering, etc., in the worldly life attacks him. How beautiful. This is exactly what happens to individuals. So let us understand this in detail. Then through that confusion, now you're all confused because of what? Caused by your ego. Oh, I am thinking, this is going to happen. I. And also, what do we do, in our life? We always associate something that has happened in our past and believe that something like this should not happen in the future, either to us or our family members. So it could be your children tomorrow. And what will you say? Oh, this happened to me. I don't want this to happen to my children. Now, why are you comparing your life with your children's life? Your destiny and your children's destiny is not one and the same. And most important, your children are born through you, but they are not your own children. Please understand, they are born through you because of your karmic debt. They come with their independent destiny. Now, why are you putting all your experiences, your fears on your children, which is not correct? And then what do? You become an obstruction in the development of your children and their future. And you will become root cause of lot of things in their life. So this is something not understood. Your fear, and what is he very nicely explaining here? The confusion has been caused because of your ego and fear of suffering. The suffering that which you underwent in your life, and you're believing that the world is the same and tomorrow things are going to be the same. We are evolving at a phenomenal speed. The whole world is transforming at a phenomenal pace. And where is your age, where even our age, whatever we saw or what is going to come about, the changes is happening so fast. Tomorrow the children will not even live like us. Their world is completely different. So what are we afraid? And most important, this morning my Guruji was giving a very powerful lesson. You know what he said? How do you know what is going to happen in tomorrow? Do you know your destiny or your children's destiny? Nobody can predict what is tomorrow going to be all about. So why are we so hung up about what is going to be there, and we want to have a secured life, we want to plan for our life? It doesn't work like that. What did he say? Just surrender to the Divine Lord. He takes care of you, everything. Just be his devotee and you don't even have to bother. And you know what? That is the greatest freedom. But human beings, they have this ego. This is what happens. They believe they are the ones who are, securing their children's future. They are the ones who are securing their family's future. Nothing is in your hand. Everything is the will of the Divine Lord. So what security are you talking about? It's a very sad thing to see how people get carried away and lost because of their ego and the fear of suffering in the worldly life, which is what attacks them. That's what Eknath Maharaj so beautifully explained. So stop being fearful. Don't have this idea that I am going to keep my future very secured. It is not in your hand. Understand that. Then, please bear in mind that the main cause of this fear is the imagination of our mind. To control that mind, the advice of the Guru and our total faith in that advice are necessary. This is extremely powerful. Now, what is he saying? Please bear in mind that the main cause of this fear, is the imagination of our mind. Now, what are you imagining? Oh my God, now where will I get the job? Okay, tomorrow my Guruji has told, I need to take another job. I'm trying to search, but I don't know whether it is available or not. I don't know whether I will qualify. I don't know if I will get the visa. Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Your mind is, thinking too much. Over its processor is, its capacity is very different. It's phenomenal. And it's thinking too much, and also you're imagining, it's giving you a lot of scenarios, what's going to be, what will happen if you don't get a job, how things are going to span out. So a lot of imagination has been playing havoc in your mind. Then what happens? And then the fear stems from what? That imagination, which is just a creation of your mind. It is unreal. So what are you imagining, and why are you imagining? That's the first question I have. Why are you creating this imagination? See, the most important, lesson which we have been constantly learning, whether it is in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Tripura Rahasyam, Shripad Sri Vallabh, you name the scriptures, everything teaches only one thing. When you have the Guru, stop thinking first. Just surrender unto his lotus feet and have faith. What has to be will be. And when you have the grace of the Guru, everything will be fine. This is the conviction you need to have. Then having a Guru and not having this faith, there is no use then. Then what is the point in you having a Guru when you don't have faith in him? Then nothing is going to work in your life. So, to control the mind, the advice of the Guru and our total faith in the advice are necessary. So here the Guru is going to tell you, there is nothing to fear. You know what Baba says? Why fear when I am here? And that's the most beautiful thing. Why are you afraid when you have your Gurudev? There is nothing to be afraid of. He's there to take care of everything. And he knows what is your future, what he has to do, everything. He's already set everything in motion. But you don't have the faith. The reason why the fear is coming, because it's lack of faith. And you don't follow the advice of your Guru. The Guru Agya is very important. Agya means instructions. Whatever the Guru commands you, you need to follow it to the T. And if you don't follow, nothing is going to work. So here he's saying, please bear in mind that the main cause of this fear is the imagination of our mind. To control that mind, the advice of the Guru and our total faith in that advice are necessary. It's the only way for you to control the mind, not any other way. And you try as much as you want. You can't control, and that is the truth. Then, the real knowledgeable disciples consider this, and having faith in the teachings of their Guru, control their mind by discrimination and desirelessness. This is extremely powerful. So what is he saying? The real knowledgeable disciples. Now this the first word itself is very important. The real knowledgeable disciples. He is qualified. Eknath Maharaj is very clear. He is not talking about any disciple and every disciple. The real knowledgeable disciple. But first, knowledge comes with what? The earlier verse, with faith and listening to the words of your Guru. So Guru Bhakti, Guru Seva, great faith. We have learned one whole verse, and it went into pages, and we have learned about it, how important it is to have absolute faith in your Guru. Every word that comes from the mouth of your Guru is the gospel truth, and you cannot use your mind to question, to doubt. And I think we have gone through endlessly all that lesson, and there is more to come. Now he is very clearly saying, through the knowledge which your Guru imparts to you, so the real knowledgeable disciples consider this. What do? They consider whatever the Guru is saying and having faith in the teachings of their Guru. So most important, what is my Guruji saying? My Krishna Guruji keeps saying this very beautiful lesson. First is you need to have the faith in your Guru and the scriptures, because the Guru is not going to teach you anything outside the scriptures. So he's going to teach you everything from the scriptures alone. So two important things you need to believe. One is the scripture and one is the Guru. And that is most important. And when you believe, then what happens? Control their mind. So you are able to control your mind by discrimination. So what does discrimination mean here? Very simply, discrimination is you will understand what is real from unreal. Now what is real? Only the self or the Paramatman is real. And what is unreal? Everything in the material world is unreal. Because anything which is created has to also come to an end. So everything in the material world is transient. It is not permanent. So what is permanent? The only thing which is real and permanent is the divinity. That is Paramatman, Krishna Paramatman, or yourself. That is all is real and the one which is permanent. So if you're running behind everything in the material world, then there is going to be suffering, then there is going to be misery, everything is going to be there because you are believing in the unreal. So the discrimination will teach you that I need not get carried away with people, places and things in my life. And whatever my life has to be, I will lead that. See, it's a very interesting thing. Number one, so that is the discrimination. And number two is what? Desirelessness. See, this is where every human being, every individual is stuck. First is you have to become desireless. Now what happens is when you have desires of any kind, knowledge will not enter. Aren't we studying this very important lesson in Tripura Rahasyam? My Krishna Guruji has been teaching the same thing over and over and over again for the last 24 years. And even then, everybody, those who come, they all come with their laundry list, okay? Everybody is coming. When they come to the Guru, they don't know who this real master is. And the truth is, when everybody, there is no exceptions to the rule, okay? Now, when I'm saying everybody, when they come to the Guru, now they all come with their own desires, they all come with their own wants, whatever it is in life. And then the Guru is not initially going to say anything to you. I still remember a very beautiful lesson, a teaching that happened to me in my own life. So this was very early in 2009 when my Guruji found me. I first visited with him. He took me to Kolkata, and that was my first experience meeting the divinity. And when we went to Kolkata, my Guruji said, we are going to Dakshineshwar. And there he said, you want to meet Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji? He was asking. I said, yeah, I want to meet him. It was everybody's desire. You want to meet the God. So everybody wants to do this. And I said, yes, I would love to meet him. And my Guruji said, I don't know how he is going to meet you or what he will do, but you will meet him. That's all he said. That's the only thing he said. And when I went over there, or just before that, my Guruji had asked me a very interesting question. What are your desires in life? What do you want? It is a very funny thing. I still remember. I gave him a laundry list of things that I want. I said, I want to become this, I want to become this, I want to achieve, I want to grow, I'm in my career, financially, everything, all laundry list of desires I was telling. And you know what my Guruji said? Your list is not ending at all. He jokingly said this, but there was a lot of truth in what he said. I did not understand at that time. So next morning we had gone to this temple, and when we visited this beautiful place where Ramakrishna Ji used to live in Dakshineshwar. It's called the meditation room. And when I went in there, I sat. So my Guruji was showing, we do namaskar. There was this beautiful, bed on which Ramakrishna Ji used to sit, sleep and all that. So all his things were kept there. So we just offered our obeisance and we're sitting there. So I closed my eyes and I sat there. You know what? The first thing I did was, I prayed to him and I started telling all my desires. And this is exactly what I did. And the truth is that. So I started telling, in my mind, I want to, please bless me with this, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly, in that very moment, before I could even go along my list, my laundry list, it's like a bucket list or a list that was not ending at all. There was a very heavy hand, it's like an iron. The feeling was like if you take a very heavy iron rod, and put it on your head, how does it feel? It's exactly like that. And something placed, on my head. I couldn't open my mouth, nor a thought came out of my mind. It felt like, can you just stop asking things? It was like that. And that heavy hand was put on my head. And there was no thought nor anything to ask. At that moment in time, I didn't know what happened. All my wants just got crushed under that heavy weight of that hand. And it literally stopped. It felt like, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji saying, what are you doing? Here is, you have a guru who's going to give you the priceless, the wealth, everything in this world. And you are asking for petty things, something like that. And when he put that hand, everything stopped. My mind stopped thinking. There was no thoughts. There was no ask. From my mouth, not a single word could come out. And I couldn't even open my eyes. I couldn't move from that place until my Guruji called out to me. At that time, he used to call me Raj. So he said, Raj, get up. What happened? He called out my name. And then I opened and I said something, and I was literally in tears. And I said, this is exactly what happened. So, and that moment was my first understanding. So you don't meet the divinity and, put forth your nonsensical wants and desires in life. God realization you cannot get with this kind of desires in you. So that was my first lesson when my Guruji said, you seem to have too much of desires. He said, stop asking. Stop all of this, throw all of that. And from that moment, and then my Guruji said, see, you have to just surrender. What Krishna Bhagwan has to give you, he will give you. Why do you need to even ask? And he said, you can't evolve on the path of spirituality if you have desires. So that was my first lesson. And then I stopped asking him. And there's a very strange thing he did. So the Guru's ways of working is very unique to destroy your desires. The next thing, before I got initiated with my Guruji, he said to me, I have given a lot of things to this. He had a first disciple, one of the disciples. And he said, I've sanctioned everything for her. So do you also want? Let me know, write a list and give it to me. But when you get all of that, please understand, you don't get God realization. You don't get, there are certain things you need to understand. Do you want what you desire, or do you want what God wills for you and what is the best that God will give you? Because God is that parent who knows what is right for you. Whatever is your desire is just from the petty mind's point of view. It is your individual ego which is saying, I need this. But you truly don't know what is right for you. There's two different things. Please understand, your desires are based on your little ego and that which you understand. It's your, what did we say? It's based on the ego and the fear of sufferings. That, why a man asks, why an individual asks. But when your Guru himself or God himself gives you, he gives you that which is right for you. And this was very powerful lesson. So my Guruji gave me this, thing. He wanted to test me out. I didn't know that. So he just told me, give me your list. I will sanction everything for you. And that day I still remember I was in office. And then in the office, I had a break and I was reading the Sudama story. And which Krishna Bhagwan, which my Krishna Guruji narrated even this morning in Srimad Bhagavatam lesson. So the Sudama stories is very poor, and then his wife sends him, he meets Krishna Bhagwan, and when Krishna Bhagwan eats that beaten rice, he handful of beaten rice, and he gets all the riches. And then I understood a very important lesson. It is only when the God wants to give you whatever that he wants to give you, that's the right thing. It is not good, it's not the right thing to ask anything from God. And that was my first lesson. And what I do? I immediately call him and I tell him, I don't want anything. I don't want to give you any list. Whatever is right for you, I know you will take care. I'm not interested in giving you any list. I don't want. And these were my words. And then is when he actually initiated me in the path of spirituality. So that was my test to see whether I'm going to ask for material wants. So what is very important is we have to become desireless. So the Guru's way of doing things and testing you out is very unique. It's not going to be the way you can even fathom. So what is he saying? So, O King, I will tell you in short, the easy way to control the mind. The teaching of the Guru is always giving reminder to the mind that it is Atman and nothing else. So what is the priceless wealth you can ask for? This knowledge of God realization. This very important thing, the redemption from this material existence of the cycle of birth and death. That is the greatest wealth or knowledge that you can get from the Guru. Because the Guru is giving you something priceless, which you cannot even imagine. So that is what we have to seek, not the material wants. And while you are going on the path, whatever is due to you, you are anyways going to get it. And especially when it is coming under the grace of your master, you know what? It is pure. There is no karma accruing to that fulfillment of whatever that he is giving you. There's nothing attached. There is no karma in it. There is no sin in it. It comes also, there is no desire in it. It becomes desirelessness is exist in that. So there is no desire of yours in that. So it is a blessed offering, the blessed food from the God. Whatever that comes to you. So that is pure. That is what we have to seek. Then as the disciple has firm conviction about the truth of the teaching given by the Guru, it so happens that whatever the fickle mind thinks about becomes of its own accord offered and surrendered to Brahman. So this is very important. So how do you control the mind? How do you overcome the mind? Here he's saying something very important. The first is the teaching of the Guru is always giving a reminder to the mind that you are that Atman and not the body. I think this, my Guruji I will vouch for this. Everybody will vouch for this. Every single day, that's the same lesson he keeps imparting. You are not this body. You are the divinity. That is what he keeps saying. Number one. Next, what is he saying? Then, as a disciple has firm conviction, the conviction about the truth you need to have. The Guru is doing his job. You need to do your job of imbibing this lesson of the teaching given by the Guru. It so happens that whatever the fickle mind thinks about becomes of its own accord offered and surrendered to Brahman. Then whatever the mind selfishly takes as useful for it becomes spiritual endeavor. So this is a very interesting thing here. See, the mind is very unique. The mind is very smart, I can say, or sometimes it has a lot of deceit as well. But you need to train the mind. The mind will choose only that which is conducive to it. Understand? So that is what he's saying. Whatever the mind selfishly takes as useful for it. So your mind is only going to listen to what is selfishly nice for it. It is not going to it's not going to take all the teachings. That is why my Guruji asked. So if I ask somebody, can you tell me what you learned from Bhagavad Gita? They will give just 1 line, 2 line answer. Or just 1 line, that's all, or 1 word answer. This is what I learned. This is all I remember. Why? Because the mind doesn't want to learn. Understand this, because it is very selfish. The mind, the lower nature of the mind is always to pull you downwards, run behind all the material worldly objects, be attached, never allow you to progress on your spiritual path. That is why Krishna Bhagavan teaches Arjuna how to control the mind through devotion to Krishna Paramatma, to him with love and devotion alone, and doing your duties without expecting the fruits of your action or the end result. You should not be attached to that at all. Whatever comes, you have to say, oh, whatever my Lord is going to bless me, I will be happy with it. So here, it's very interesting. Whatever the mind selfishly takes as useful for it becomes spiritual endeavor. And know that this is the power of the blessing of the Guru. So even if your mind is selfish, the Guru knows how to upturn it and bless that little selfishly, whatever it takes, as a spiritual endeavor for you. How beautiful. Imagine the grace of the Guru. Can you even fathom how great he is? We don't understand the value of who we have. It's very sad. If a man runs trying to escape from the earth, he has earth below his feet wherever he goes. Then he stops and his going and coming ceases. Now what we have to do is, we have to educate the mind to realize that whatever the mind looks at is Brahman only. Then whatever action the mind wants to take, the Supreme Person, the God will be present there. This is very, very powerful and beautiful. So what is he saying? He's saying, no, so if a man runs trying to escape from earth, he has earth below his feet wherever he goes. Then he stops and his going and coming ceases. Now what we have to do is, we have to educate the mind. So what are you doing by sitting in the satsang? You're educating your mind to realize that whatever the mind looks at is Brahman only. So what does Guruji teach you? He teaches you to see God in everything. You have to see Krishna Bhagwan in everything. Do not look at an individual as a body. Start looking every object, animate, inanimate, anything in this universe. Everything is Krishna Paramatma alone. So that is what you have to educate your mind to realize that whatever the mind looks at is a Brahman only. Then whatever action the mind wants to take, the Supreme Person, the Lord himself will be present there. That is what happens. So that is why we have to train ourselves to see God in everything, to see Krishna Paramatma in everything. See, sometimes we might not like doing certain things. So what I will do? I'll start seeing my Guruji in that being, that individual, that object and all that. So that is what you have to train. And it's not easy because you might not like that object in front of you. But look, see him with God's eyes and see that that object has become your Guru only. Your Guru is standing there in front of you. Why are you seeing that as an object of your likes and dislikes? So that is how you destroy that likes and dislikes. Or I can see God in some people, I can't see God in others. So all that can get destroyed. In this way, by the effect of the experience of the advice given by the Guru, the urges, the attitudes of all the sense organs subside, and the unity with the base, that is Brahman, is established, and the outgoing energy is as if locked. That is beautiful. So what is he saying? When the senses come in contact with the sense object, so then what happens? You should not let your mind dwell in that sense objects. We have learned this in Bhagavad Gita a number of times. So in this way, by the effect of the experience of the advice means the knowledge imparted to you by your Guru, the urges that we have, the attitudes of all the sense organs. So what does the sense organ do? It's running outward, no? The moment it sees an object, it wants to latch onto it. When the senses come in contact with the sense objects, the organs of action, the sense organs are acting. And the moment you come in contact, what happens? The mind comes in there. And the mind starts dwelling in that object. So you have to control it. How? By the knowledge imparted by your Gurudev. And then what happens? The attitudes of the sense organs subside. And the unity with the base, that is Brahman, is established, and the outgoing energy is as if locked. So what happens? This unity is established with the Brahman, with the Paramatman. And then the outgoing energy, what are you using? Your energy is all wasted in going outward, and now that gets locked, which means you have to now turn inwards. Everything has to turn inwards to realize that Atman is me. I am that Paramatman. I am the divinity. I am God myself. I am the self. And that is the realization you need to get. So you have to put all that energy in going inward and not outward. In this way, when the outer activity is controlled, the illusion about the duality, the spirit that is Parabrahman is always prevailing everywhere in the outer world also. So what is he simply saying? In this way, when the outer activity is controlled, so when you stop letting your sense organs run outside, and when you control it, the illusion about the duality, that I am the body and I am this body and there is everything is around me, that duality breaks, which was earlier in the mind, is destroyed. And for the yogi, the spirit, and for the yogi, the spirit that is Parabrahman is always prevailing. Means what? So whatever the mind, the illusion that it had is destroyed for the yogi. And most important, and for the yogi, the spirit is Parabrahman, that I am that spirit, which is nothing but the Paramatman, is always then prevailing in everywhere in the outer world also. So what happens means, wherever you see, he understands that everything is Paramatma, everything is Parabrahman. There is no place on earth or everywhere where God is not there. And we learned about the most beautiful story of Bhakta Prahalad. I don't want to go into that all over again. So this understanding will dawn. When the devotee controls his mind in this way, he has no fear of his own death or the ending of the universe. Then such devotees freely roam about on the face of this earth without any fear. This is called real freedom. So what is it? When the devotee controls his mind in this way. So when you have this understanding and when you're able to control your mind in this way, he has no fear of his own death. There is no fear of your own death and the ending of the universe. Aren't we all afraid? See, the fear of death is the greatest thing in life. Have you seen old age people? And you see when they are old, they're always afraid, oh, I'm going to die. Or recently this body's mom visited her brother who died. And I could see the fear that was, in her, that she's also reached that age, anything can happen. And they're so afraid. Why are you afraid of death? On the contrary, we have to just surrender. Krishna Bhagwan is there. I'm going to reach him. I'm going to attain him. And you have to be in love with him. Whatever the time that God has given us on this planet Earth, we have to just keep thinking about his name and just reach him in a very beautiful manner. There should not be any fear. See, this one understanding everybody has. But why should you fear? When you are born, you are anyways going to die. So death is anyway programmed. The day you are born itself, you have already, come with the death date also. But why is that fear then? And the ending of universe. Everybody is afraid, oh, this universe is going to come to an end. But that is programmed also. So what is there to fear? And then such devotees freely, what is that they attain? Freedom. They freely roam about on the face of earth without any fear. The greatest freedom is freedom from fear of anything in this world. And that is really you can say, liberation or whatever that you want to call. That itself is the greatest freedom. That freedom is extremely important. You're not worried about what is going to happen tomorrow. Something is going to be lost, someone is going to die, or you're going to die. Nothing you're afraid of. You're just doing the service of your Gurudev, you're devoted to him, you're devoted to Krishna Paramatma, and you have surrendered everything at his lotus feet and just going about whatever you have to do. Naturally that comes, effortlessly. That's all happens. But this deep faith is not possible to be attained fully by simple souls. I am going to tell you in an easier way. Please listen. So what is Eknath Maharaj saying? This is not so simple. He's saying, but this deep faith is not possible to be attained fully by simple soul. He's talking about a deep faith. Here, normal faith itself nobody has. How do you get the deep faith? So now he is going to explain, and he is going to tell you in a very easier way. Please listen. So with that, we will stop here and continue tomorrow. Thank you for joining Sri Eknathi Bhagavad Satsang. Have a good day and good evening to you all. God bless.
Recording stopped.